Hello and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and in today's video I'll be sharing 5 common decluttering fears that you might be experiencing and ways to overcome them. I also decided to film this video outside just because in these times where we're definitely staying more at home, I think it's really important to get outside if we can. And I'm just on my porch right now, but see if there are ways that you can, have more time outdoors or even just open windows and try to experience more of nature even while you're at home. So I thought I'd bring the outside to this video. Let's go ahead and get started. The first decluttering fear we'll talk about is regret. A lot of people are concerned, what if I get rid of this? Will I regret it? But let's shift the perspective a little bit. We might be nervous that if we get rid of something, we're going to have to replace it and buy it again. But has the opposite ever happened? Have you ever thought you had something but couldn't find it, so then you had to go buy another one because your clutter was out of control? Have you ever bought another version of an item, even though you're pretty sure you had whatever you needed, but you just had no idea where to look? Or have you ever wasted so much time looking for something that could have been better used doing something else? I know in my case, when I used to struggle with my clutter, I had so many things that I thought I had, but never could find when I actually needed them. And it wasn't until after I was decluttering and going through my items when I realized I had duplicates of multiple items that I had purchased. So let's just have that perspective shift. Sure, there might be certain items that you do end up repurchasing later. For me, there's actually still only been one example, and it was a little tea strainer. Since at the time, I had never really had loose leaf teas before, and now I really enjoy loose leaf tea. But that was about a $3 purchase. For 5 years of minimalist living for a $3 purchase, to me that's worth it. A great action step that can also help you with regret is actually going through your stuff in stages and putting like a staging area together where you can put something aside for a while if you're concerned about it, and then go back to it and see if you actually missed the item later. Chances are you forgot about it and don't need it anymore. Another fear many people face when they're trying to declutter is a fear of failure. They might be concerned that they're not going to succeed, or what's the point in starting if I'm not going to be able to accomplish it? Once again, it's important for us to shift our perspective. If you're not currently happy with your space, are you currently failing? You see, when we're at our most cluttered state, we're kind of at rock bottom. The only way you can go is up in terms of improving your space going forward. So if we think about it from that perspective, any action, even the tiniest, smallest action, is progress. I also don't think it's a clear switch. You are failing and then suddenly you're successful. I think with most things in life, it's a continuum. You gradually work towards whatever the destination is or the outcome is that you're trying to achieve. And decluttering is the same way. If you focus little by little on the progress you're making, that is how you achieve lasting change. Even right now, think about the smallest action you can take that is going to help move you forward in living a more minimal life. If you are looking for more resources to help you succeed even with little actions, 2 resources I'd recommend. Number 1, I've got a free decluttering challenge, the 30-day decluttering challenge that you can sign up for in the link below and get a free resource to help you. As well as a popular video on the channel is 100 Things to Declutter, where I walk around the space and give you 100 different examples of different types of clutter that you might have that you could get rid of. So links below for both of those. Another common fear that people experience with decluttering is judgment. They're worried about the judgment of other people or just society in general about their ideas to declutter. Once again, this requires a perspective shift. This idea was originally introduced to me by Amy Porterfield, but she had talked about how it was a concept that others had also taught her about. So it's definitely not new knowledge, but it might be new knowledge to you. And the idea states, no one who has achieved more than you is going to judge you for wanting more. You see, if there are people who are judging you for wanting to let go of certain items, chances are they are also drowning in clutter or not happy with their space. Someone like me who simplified my life, or any other minimalist YouTuber or minimalist out there, is going to be really excited for you, for the ideas you're having about what you can let go of, and for all the freedom you encounter when you start living a minimalist lifestyle. We're going to be so excited for you and want to be your biggest cheerleader. The criticism is more so going to come from people who are either at your same level or behind you. They maybe don't want you to be successful, or they're afraid that your action, you deciding that a certain item no longer adds value, maybe is an attack on them, is what they're thinking. So it's really important to see through that judgment, and a lot of times judgment is people projecting their fears on someone else. I think it's also truly the people who are unhappy with their lives are the ones being judgmental, because if you think about it, if you're really happy and living an intentional, meaningful life, there's not time for judgment. Judgment doesn't feel good. That's a more negative emotion, and we don't want to be incorporating that in our daily lives. And if you're, making progress on your decluttering journey and you're eager to share that information, and you share some of that information with maybe these people who are judging you and they make you feel worse about it, just stop sharing it with them. They can be a part of your life, but not a part of your decluttering, if that makes sense. Instead, focus on sharing that information with people who can support you and lift you up. For example, leave a comment on one of my videos letting me know what you were able to let go of and declutter. I want to support you, as well as there's so many other amazing viewers here as part of the Abundantly Minimal community who also would be really excited for you for making those steps. So just choose where it's going to make the most sense to share that information. Finally, remember that even if every other person has a different opinion about your stuff, it's your stuff and they don't have to live with the consequences of having that stuff. It's pretty easy to say, well, don't get rid of that. Well, it's in your space. But if you say, okay, here, you keep it, suddenly it's a little bit of a different story because now they have an obligation to hold on to it. So have that in mind too. It's your space, your stuff, you get to decide what makes sense to do with it. Another common fear experienced when decluttering is the fear of forgetting. If I get rid of something, am I going to forget about it? The perspective shift we need here is that not everything is created equal. Not everything is worth remembering. It's very easy for us to look at items from our past with rose-colored glasses. We might think that they are more important than they actually are, or that they meant more to us than they actually do. Chances are, if you forgot that you had something, it probably wasn't significant enough to need to be kept forever, or at least kept in the same way it has been kept. If there are certain items that you do want to still remember without actually holding on to it, a very common example is to take pictures of it, as well as consider keeping a decluttering journal where you write down what the item was, as well as any feelings or memories that are associated with it. The last decluttering fear I'll talk about today is fear of losing one's identity. We often associate our identity with our stuff. And because of that, we might feel that if we are to let go of something, we're also letting go of that part of our identity. But it doesn't have to be the case. As I talked about with forgetting, the idea of our identity changes over time. And just because something was significant to us at a different part of life doesn't mean that we have to maintain it going forward. We change as people and our priorities change. An example of my own life is when I was going through sentimental items, and I had a lot of different awards and certificates from my academic experience. Of course, when I was a kid, if I received an award or like a certificate for something, that was very exciting to me. I enjoyed that, and it was nice to receive that recognition. But now, as a 28-year-old, I'm very far away from that past, and I don't need a certificate from middle school to validate anything. I don't put value in that as much as I value just overall my positive experience in school or the accomplishments I've had since then. I don't need that piece of paper from middle school to tell me that I'm doing a good job. I value different things now. It's really important to think about what are the metrics that you use to determine your self-worth, and that changes over time. The other layer is to think about a worst case scenario. Obviously, I don't want this to happen to anyone, but let's say there was some sort of natural disaster and you were okay, your loved ones were okay, but let's say you lost everything. Absolutely all of your stuff was gone. Even though your stuff was gone, you are still you, and that cannot be taken away. Of course, there would be so many challenges in the process of rebuilding your life, but you are you, and that cannot be taken away, and that's not linked to your stuff. Of course, for some easier practical advice here, if you're decluttering, start with the more utilitarian or practical items. Those tend to have less of a sentimental attachment, so they're easier to let go of first. There's no rule book about what has to be decluttered first, so if you start with items and build momentum for those things that don't matter as much to you, you have more confidence and ability to better analyze the items that you maybe do have more attachment to, and you've worked your way up to that. That wraps up my video about 5 decluttering fears, but I'd love you to get some momentum. So right now, try to take one action that's going to move you forward towards a decluttered space. Maybe that's finding one item in your space to let go of. Maybe it's checking out that free decluttering guide I talked about and getting started on that. Again, the link is in the description field below. Maybe it's checking out the video I talked about, the 100 things you can declutter. Maybe it's as simple as subscribing to the channel so you're notified of when I put out new videos to help you live your best life with less. Whatever it is, you've got this. Happy decluttering, and we'll see you next time. Bye.